Got it. Good. Welcome back, everybody. Happy Monday to you. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. Lord knows I enjoyed mine. It was a wonderful weekend here in Phoenix, Arizona, with temperatures not even reaching 105 degrees that I know of. I'm not sure. Thanks for hanging out with us on what was that, Friday night? Those of you that hung out and watched the debate with Andrew Wilson, I'm going to cover some of that today. I'm sorry if you saw it. Went about exactly as we expected it to go. Let me just say this. I think hopefully we have some Andrew Wilson stands here today. A lot of them said that there's a rumor that we tripled our subscribers because of that debate. And I checked, I think before the debate, we had somewhere around 14,100. I don't remember. We gained about 20. So not quite tripling it. Tripling it would have put us at 42,000, which would have been pretty fucking cool. But that did not happen. He's not impossible. He's just a fraud. And I'll get to that here in a little bit. But just a reminder for those of you who are watching, make sure that if you do want to watch those types of debates with us in the future and you don't want to hang out in the Raging Tomato incel hellhole, make sure you're a paid subscriber over on YouTube, Twitch, or TikTok. You can watch those with us. As a reminder, this Thursday, it's me versus an open panel over there. And I will say this, I thought it was interesting looking back on that debate. I guess we can just jump into it. When I ended the debate, before we went to open panel, I was like, man, I don't know how that went. I wasn't prepared for all of Andrew. I had watched him. I had an idea of the way that I thought he was going to debate. I was right on how he was going to debate. But in the moment, it's fucking tricky, man. Because he's on the Gaslight Express from the very beginning. From the very beginning, he took everything I said and changed it. His response to my opening statement, which I'm going to show you here in a little bit, he missed every single point that I made, and then he mischaracterized every point I made, and he made arguments I didn't make as a recap. Here's what he said. A lot of it I didn't say. I also want to give you, and I'll cover this as I'm watching it, but I actually meant to pull this up. Let me pull up the DMs here. There was something that didn't occur to me until later that I'm going to give Sarah, who is the host, the benefit of the doubt here, that this wasn't on purpose, and that originally when we set up this debate with this prompt, that she didn't have the intention of me debating Andrew. She knew it was me and Steven. So I'm going up through my messages with her. At first, we were going to talk about Elon Musk. We decided to do that. So she sent me a first message. She said, my first question is, what prompt would you like to use? My understanding from the clip is Elon Musk a genius, but I think there was something else built on there on whether you were pro or anti Elon Musk. So I said, I just think fundamentally the debate was about whether or not this version of capitalism and government is efficient. So it was as Steven was going to be on one side of the argument, I was going to be on the other. Steven responded to her saying he wanted to do a bigger conversation, something around Doge or government size maybe. I said that works. Then she checked back. It took a little while. I asked if there were any topics that interested her or her audience. She said the crowd loves current politics, religion, especially morality-based or societal culture like feminism, red pill, but realistically any topics. I said we can talk about anything Trump. I think Steven and I are pretty opposite on that. Does he want to talk about deportation? She said, let me check. He agreed for the 22nd, yada, yada, yada. She said, also, could you specify the prompt you'd like to use precisely and let me know whether you're taking the affirmative or negative stance so I ensure you're both on the same page? I didn't pick one. She chose some dates. She said, do you have a specific prompt? I still didn't pick one. I said that I think that Trump deportations do more harm than good. She said, perfect. You're the affirmative or negative. I said affirmative. She said, okay, I'll check with Steven. so we have this debate, and Steven and I decide that Steven thinks that Trump deportations do more good than harm. I think they do more harm than good. So we're going to argue which of those two is correct, right? So then going back, so we have that debate, and you all saw it. Anybody who was there and anybody in her audience saw Stephen and I had a debate about whether or not the deportations are a net benefit or a net negative. Everybody saw that debate. Then when we were done with that debate, Andrew sent me responded to something on Twitter saying like, "I'm next." I don't remember what it was, but like, I think somebody said you should debate Andrew, and he's like, "Why? So you can lose again?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess, Andrew. Like, I'm happy to have this exact same debate with you." So that's how this was set up. It was set up that we would have a redo of the debate that I had with Steven, which was Steven believes that deportations do more good than harm. And I believe that they do more harm than good, and we're going to debate whether which of those positions is right. Now, I don't know what Sarah's conversation was with Andrew on the back end. She can talk about that. But this idea that somehow I chose a prompt that I was going to define, that I was going to defend, absolutely. I wouldn't have chosen such a generic prompt. In fact, I didn't choose that prompt. He did. Andrew said, let's run this debate back. So I went into the debate with the understanding that Andrew would be debating his side, I would debate my side, and we would have this discussion. Andrew had a different determination on what this debate would be. And the reason I think, and I think I'm right about this, that Andrew wanted to do that is Andrew is 100% a Christian nationalist. You can go watch any debate he has. He didn't push back on that with me at all. When I brought up the fact that he is an Orthodox Catholic and he believes that women shouldn't vote and that there is divine inspiration or divine command, and that his beliefs are based on a divine command from God to the leadership of the church to him, and he is but a vessel, and he gets to like send that message to his wife. Those are Andrew's actual beliefs. So when we had this debate, I don't think Andrew wanted to have this debate. I think Andrew wanted to debate terms and make me look silly so that his team of incels could come up and be like, "Oh, we dunked on you," and that's actually all they did. All of them have said that. Callie Cam is here too. Callie Cam thinks this as well. The problem that Andrew had and that people like Callie Cam have is I had these people up on the panel both times in the Steven debate and in the Andrew debate. And when Steven and I debated and we discussed whether which way was better, those same exact people came up, and those same people in the comments came up, and they debated whether or not mass deportation was good or bad, or which side was better. And when the people came up after Andrew, the panelists came up, you'll notice something. They also couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on. They also didn't debate any of the points that I made. They couldn't do it either, because that's what Andrew's whole grift is. Andrew's grift is to try and make other people look bad. It's also why they all say that everybody has an ideology and everybody's ideologically driven and morals have to come from somewhere, because it's the only way for them to defend the awful positions that they regularly defend. What they have to do is they have to say, we're all the same. We all have a moral framework. We all have an ideology. And so if you point to our ideology and say bad, then we get to say, what does bad mean? What does harm mean? I'm going to show you bits of this debate, but I just want to point out for like the millionth time that Andrew asked me probably 10 different times to define harm, and I did. And he just didn't accept that definition. In fact, he used the definition of harm principle instead of harm. When human beings speak to each other, when I speak to you and I say, this is harmful, and then you say, what do you mean by harmful? And I tell you what I mean by harmful, that's my definition. That's how I'm using the word. So it was silly to me that after I gave him definitions, he's like, well, what does that really mean? What is that? It was a silly, going nowhere conversation. I don't think anybody watching that debate who wasn't already on his side had their mind changed. I think it was a waste of time. And again, I'm going to give Sarah a little bit of credit here. I I don't know how she explained this to Andrew. But to say that, like, I went on the same channel 2 weeks in a row, and 1 week with the same prompt, we were able to discuss immigration, and the second week with the exact same prompt, we weren't allowed to discuss it. We just had to define what harm was. It shows you the type of like tactics that side has to use. Because frankly, Andrew's position was a losing position. He's granted me all the economic data. That's enough for me. That's enough for most people. Most people that are against illegal immigration, it's not on a moral principle. It's that they believe that there was real harm being done to this country. That they believe that like illegal immigrants are latching on to all of our social services and draining us. And it's not true. But that's why all these Republicans campaign on that. That's why they all lie over and over and over again. And that was the contention with Stephen. Like, why don't you guys just stop lying so we can actually have a conversation about immigration? Andrew didn't want to have that discussion. What I want to show you here is the response to my opening statement. And the reason I'm not showing my opening statement is because I have it written down, and so we can check against it. And if you want to go back and check against my opening statement, you can. But let me just pull it up. There we go. I'm going to pull that up, and I want you to. I just want to go through a couple things. One, if you go rewatch it, Andrew wasn't paying attention to what I said. Andrew had already decided what this debate was about, and that's why he's going to misstate almost everything I said in my opening statement. So let me jump here. Pop that up. Here is Andrew's response to my opening statement.
Actually kind of surprised.
And by the way, the reason I'm showing this is I think, and we'll clip this, I think it's important for people to know how Andrew debates. I think it's important for people to recognize what an absolute fucking fraud he is. And he is a fraud. Because if Andrew was if Andrew was being honest, and if his audience were being honest, they would tell you that he just wants Christian nationalism. And the only way for him to sell people on Christian nationalism is to first convince people that he's a great debater. That's the first way. He's going to just like slow walk people into Christian nationalism. And then you have the Christian nationalists who aren't there to win a debate. They're there to justify their abhorrent views. So here's Andrew's response to my opening statement.
These are kind of very basic leftist arguments. Most of them are pretty easy to refute.
All right.
Kind of off the top immediately. Because you have the positive position, I didn't feel the necessity to create an elongated opening statement because I'm here to create refutations for your claims, not vice versa.
Now, these aren't my claims. It's not my position. It's not my prompt. Sarah chose the prompt. I didn't choose it. She said she took a prompt from a previous debate where the structure was Stephen believed one way, I believed the opposite way. And so that prompt actually made sense for both of our arguments. That way we could have a real argument. I didn't choose this prompt. So Andrew starts off by saying, I didn't really pay attention to what you said, and I didn't even create an opening argument because all I'm here to do is tear apart your prompt. I didn't make up the prompt. I thought this was a good faith discussion. I thought we were going to have a discussion about immigration. Sarah's the one that chose this prompt. Sarah said, let's run it back on this prompt. How the fuck would I think, after debating Stephen on this platform for the first time, why would I think that it is now, like, now that we've debated this, which policies are better, why the fuck would I think that I was going into that second debate for an entirely different debate where I was going to have to absolutely defend a prompt that Sarah chose? Again, Stephen and I, before that debate, we were friendly. Stephen and I had talked about this. Stephen and I knew how we were going to debate. He was on one side, I was on the other. I wasn't making like it's some absolute claim. The prompt was a way to say, like, here's my position, here's Stephen's position, and they're just flip-flopped. That was the prompt. So Sarah's the one that chose to run this back. Sarah probably should have explained to Andrew the way that we came up with the prompt and the way that we debated that prompt. But for Andrew, Andrew's very opening statement is, I didn't really listen to any of that shit. I'm just here to pick apart that prompt. I don't like that prompt. So I'm going to spend this whole time picking apart a prompt that you didn't choose.
Versus you have the positive claim we should allow undocumented workers to stay. There was a whole bunch that was missing from that, though, and I feel like we should go into this. So first, he brings up the economy. This is kind of the the idea you'll hear the most from progressives is that there's a lot of kind of economic benefits which come into the United States from undocumented immigrants. They never tell you the other side of that, which is that they're effectively creating a slave class. How do we know that they're
Actually addressed that in my opening statement, and I addressed it in my debate with Steven, and I addressed it millions of times here, that I believe amnesty removes the slave class. That was part of my opening statement. Already, point one, like he says, like, I don't even have to refute these arguments, but I will anyways, and immediately goes to a straw man of a position that I don't hold. I've already covered, and I covered in the previous debate, and then I cover again in this debate.
effectively creating a slave class? Well, because my opponent literally just said so. He said that there's states which collect millions upon millions of dollars in Social Security taxes from people who will never be the beneficiaries of said Social Security. Now,
actually, I said the country does, because the states don't collect Social Security tax. That's a federal tax. So that's not actually what happened there. But what I did say is that there are states that have a net negative balance when it comes to illegal immigration because of the money they spend to educate children of undocumented immigrants. He's already misstating my position. Like, he has no clue what I said. None. He's literally just writing down shit that he's heard other people say. He didn't listen to a word of my opening statement.
For me, in a way for me to ask my opponent, how is it that the government is collecting Social Security taxes from people who don't have Social Security numbers? That's a very strange phenomenon, isn't it?
I've been making fun of his intonation. How is it that they're getting Social Security numbers? That's a very strange phenomenon, isn't it? My opponent would lead you to believe that they just magically found these Social Security numbers, that they magically came out of thin air. Isn't that ironic that this man with no prints? I fucking explained it in my opening statement. I said that there are people who are using Social Security numbers that are here illegally, and they can't collect benefits on those Social Security numbers because they're not theirs. But Andrew didn't listen to that, because Andrew is generic as fuck, and he doesn't want to have this discussion about illegal immigration. He wants to define words. We're 0 for 2 on his claims. So far, both claims I addressed in my opening, and he didn't hear it. He's created this entire straw man, and he's thinking about it, and he's putting out his straw man like, I don't think my opponent ever thought of this. I covered it, bitch. I covered it.
Illegal, no Social Security number, yet able to collect Social Security taxes. Well, that's bizarre.
Nope.
And then at the same token, my opponent would probably be the first type to say, well, they're not over here doing identity theft in mass and stealing people's Social Security numbers and things like this.
Well, actually, that's exactly what's happening. And that's exactly what I said is happening. But Andrew doesn't listen.
Why would he say that? Only somehow the state has devised some sort of evil plan in which they can exploit workers who have no Social Security numbers for millions of dollars in Social Security taxes.
Just so we know, so exactly what I said here on when it comes to Social Security. Let me find the numbers. Where's the Social Security taxes? I said undocumented immigrants contribute billions in Social Security and Medicare taxes, money they will never collect. Deporting them means less revenue for programs that benefit all Americans. More than a third of all taxes paid by undocumented immigrants are towards social programs they will never benefit from. That's what I said, word for word. I read it. That's how I know I said it word for word. I read this statement. I wrote this statement down. I read it. You didn't hear any of this.
A bit bizarre from my end that there's no identity theft going on, yet somehow the state's able to do that. Super weird. I'm sure.
Super weird. That whole thing you just made up in your head. This is like, the only reason I'm showing this is because I know that there's some Andrew stands here, and I would welcome you guys to come up today and discuss any of this. Could you explain to me how Andrew has fucked up all 3 positions that he's addressed so far? If this guy's debating in good faith, can we explain how he fucked up all 3 positions already? He's already created a straw man that doesn't exist. He's already debating somebody else, not me. I don't know who he's talking to right there. By the way, while he was doing this, I was writing down each thing that he got wrong. We never even got to it, because then he's like, what does harm mean? They're saying that if you're saying harm, you're going to have to define harm. I don't think we can continue this conversation until we know what harm is. Well, how did we continue it in your opening statement then, Andrew? How were you able to have this discussion in an opening statement, but not once there was some back and forth? Did I mute that? Oh, are we going to have internet problems again today? Son of a bitch. Let's see if I can just go back a little bit and see if that fixes it. Ah, not this shit again. Great. All right. Where are we at? 2341. This is insane. Let me try. Just open the link again. See if this fixes it. Sorry, guys. Still the same thing. I'm not sure what to do about this. Any ideas, anyone? Seems like my internet's working, but not this clip. Let me go to, I can maybe use Raging Tomatoes. Let's see. Yeah, I'm refreshing. Thank you. Thank you for that. I did refresh it. Is all my internet going to be down today? I can't load any video? Uh-oh. We may have another internet problem today. Let me see if anything's going to load today. This is weird. Like some things are loading. Let's try this again. Is YouTube crashing? Because I can load on Twitter. Did YouTube just crash? Okay, Twitter's up and going. Nope, everything's dead. Well. Oh, Jen's muted in the VC. Let's see. That's weird. Jen, you want to? There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know what's going on with my internet. No videos are loading at all. Oh, maybe they are now. I just started going. Let me try this.
See, then we take it.
Okay, I think we might have got it back. I think it might have just been temporarily. History. Okay, I think we're back. All right. Hey, Jen, good morning.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. You hear me?
Okay. I was going to say, you could try to open things up in an incognito window. Oftentimes, it can get past whatever issue that is. But you got it running, so never mind.
All right. Thank you.
Well, look at you getting things fixed all by your big boy self.
Yeah, I just kept refreshing it. I'm very good at this. All right,
W's in the chat for people for figuring this out.
There we go.
But since I'm here, since we're going over this, if you suffered through this debate on Friday with us, we get to suffer a little bit again. But we're glad you're here. So there's that. Just want to remind you, at the top left-hand corner, we've got that gift goal. So Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Super Chats all go towards knocking down that number. There's a couple messages I think in our chat that you need to read. So this is our job. We do this each day, Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 1 Pacific time. So we need that to hit that each day so that we can keep things going and providing this information to you guys. So yeah, so you do that. If you haven't subscribed to us already, please do so. If you were a subscriber, like you mentioned earlier, you could do a watch party with us while he did these debates. He's got another one coming up on Thursday, so if you want to be able to be part of the cool kid conversation and not with the insults, that would be, you guys can do that. You can join us over there. It's a good time. So yeah, it's paid memberships, not just a regular subscription on YouTube. It has to be, you have to be a member on YouTube to be part of that party. So check out our link tree. We're on most social media platforms. We've got merch. We upload these episodes onto Spotify. And Jay you can request him on Cameo. So like I said, we've got about, 3 hours left of the show? 3 hours to knock out that remaining 274. I have faith in you. If we could do it sooner rather than later, that would be amazing. So there's that. Was feeling a little stressed, so I had a bit of sandpaper. It really took the edge off.
Wait, say that again. You cut out. Say that again.
I said, was feeling stressed, so I had a bit of sandpaper. It really took the edge off.
That's so dumb. That one was dumb. Thanks, Jen. Greg said, is the device plugged in? I think so. Greg said, have you tried turning it on and off? No, thank God. Goose said Andrew should take out his retainers when debating. Valerie said Steven doesn't debate. He pivots a lot. If you have to tell someone it's not a gotcha, it's a gotcha. Greg said it was the morality for me. Thank you, guys. All right, we'll keep going with this.
Thank you, RTP and Andrew T.
Continent, literally, in North America and in the United States, or any of the other places which are United States adjacent, sometimes this is even argued right down to the province, that there are some places like Chile or things like this, which could be loosely associated with the United States, where a person could get citizenship that way. I've even seen leftists argue for that. Now, my opponent didn't, and so for the purposes of not strawmanning him, I'm just pointing out why in the world.
I appreciate it. He strawmanned all my positions, then did another strawman that he realized that he's like, oh, I would never strawman a position, but I do need to get it out there, because he had this written down beforehand. He thought he knew what my argument was going to be. And because he wrote it down beforehand, he just went with it anyways. He's like, oh, but he didn't say this one. I also didn't say the other two things you said.
World, would you want to have a system in which you could have a child on our soil, right? And then they are declared an American citizen when their parents shouldn't even be here in the first place. That's insane. I would actually like him to tell me why it would be immoral to not grant them citizenship and rather send them back with their parents. That seems like the most moral thing that you can do. I would actually like to start there. He points out the moral and humanitarian harms. He says in protection for DACA immigrants and like I just said, birthright citizenship. When it came to DACA, so what? You implement a U.S. policy. We don't like how the policy turns out, so we change the policy. We do this all the time. Even if it's the case that Republicans want to end anything that has to do with DACA or making sure that people have a pathway to citizenship who aren't supposed to be here, I would also like to hear the moral argument for that. He just asserted that this is a moral argument. He just asserts.
I actually never asserted. In fact, specifically, I said it's not a moral argument. This is an economic argument. You see what? This is the trick with Andrew. And it's also the trick of, I brought it up at the end, it's also the trick of cults. They want you to think in terms of morality, and they want you to assume that everybody just has this moral framework with where they operate within, and that moral framework needs to be unbending, and that moral framework, if you attack the moral framework and expose that somebody's moral framework is not sound, that therefore you win the argument. Andrew's moral framework, and I complimented him at the end, like he does build a moral framework for himself, but it is unbending. He doesn't change it. He's not open to new information. I think that that's a very limiting way to live your life, to say, these are my morals. My morals come from, in his case, divine revelation, and my morals will be unbending. It's impossible to have a debate with somebody when it comes to morals. Like, morals are entirely subjective. And if you don't have moral, like, if you ask me what my morals are, I don't know. If you ask me what framework I work with inside, which framework I'm working inside of, I don't know, because I think that it's silly. Because I grew up with a moral framework that I was forced to work inside of, and what it does is it makes you like Andrew, where you then, because you have to speak in absolutes, you wind up having to justify some really fucking shitty things because it fits your moral framework. This idea that there's like one right way to live in this world, that there's one right solution all the time, and it should be based on your ideology, I think is silly. And that's all Andrew wants to debate here. I would call this a massive waste of my time, and probably a waste of most people's time who watched it. But what I did want to do is I did want to make sure that Andrew had to explain it over and over and over again. I have not heard from anybody who isn't like a Crucible dick writer who said that was a good debate. I've heard from white nationalists. I've heard from Republicans. Obviously, the people that are on my side were probably gonna side with me anyways. But it wasn't a convincing night for Andrew. It wasn't a convincing night for anybody. It was kind of a debacle. It was kind of embarrassing that two human beings couldn't have a discussion because Andrew needed to fit it into this narrow framework, and he needed to define terms so that he could hold you to them absolutely. And I've watched him do this over and over. Andrew takes people off the streets regularly on the Whatever podcast, and they bring people in and they ask them their opinion on something like immigration, and then they try and boil it down to like, let me ask you, do you think it would be immoral if you locked somebody who was an immigrant in a cage? And obviously the regular person who thinks it's a good faith debate's going to be like, yeah, that's okay. And they're like, okay, well, what if that person had ripped the head off of your child? Like, okay, well, then it's not immoral. See how you have a problem with your logic? Yeah. It's what all Andrew wants to do is tell you it's okay to always lock people. It's okay to lock people in cages, because there sometimes is a moral justification for that. So you can't be morally opposed to locking people in cages. You have to be morally opposed to locking people in cages for a certain reason. And then what's that reason? Well, they were here illegally. Okay, so now we can't lock people in cages for doing things that are illegal. Why do we have prisons? And I don't think you would say that it's immoral to lock somebody up in prison if they've broken the law here. Certainly, you wouldn't take that position. Okay. See how your morals are inflexible, and that's why I say that you don't have any grounds to stand on. That's how Andrew wants to debate. Andrew wants to force you to take a moral position, and then he wants to find a flaw in those morals, and then he exposes you as somebody who doesn't stand on moral principles, because nobody does. Nobody stands on their principles, their moral principles, absolutely. Even Andrew. Andrew's a person who is a Christian. He stands on his Christian morals, and he fails all the time. But he gets this loophole where he gets forgiveness. But nobody else gets forgiveness. Nobody is 100% moral. I've never heard a position that's 100% moral. You have to look at things objectively. You have to look at things in a way that, especially in this country where we have a two-party system, we have people very divided over certain issues. If you're going to look at how to fix immigration, you're going to have to do so by making compromises. And this type of debate leads to no compromises. All it leads to is a bunch of people who, which exactly how Andrew ended the debate, by jacking himself off while patting himself on the back, saying, I won this debate. I dog-walked this debate. I absolutely dominated this debate. There's no question I won this debate. And everybody watching this knows I won this debate. That's what he's there for. He's there to win the debate. I'm not. But nobody won that debate. I feel like we all lost.
Well, this is bad because it's bad because I think it's fucking bad. Well, that's great, but that's not justification for why it's actually bad. So we can go through all of these things in sequence, but I'd actually like to start with this idea of the morality here when it comes to birthright citizenship. And
now, notice again, in my opening statement, I didn't discuss morality. I specifically said this isn't a moral argument, and Andrew won't accept that. I'm going to go back to morality because he needs, in order to win a debate, Andrew needs you to make moral claims so he can pick apart your morals and therefore say your stance holds no validity. Even if I was 100% against my morals that I claimed in this debate, my argument is still sound. My argument still holds weight that fiscally it is a better outcome for us to grant amnesty than it is to deport 15 million immigrants. It's irrelevant what my morals are here, because the outcome for this country financially is better if you grant people amnesty than if you deport them. But Andrew doesn't want to discuss that. He just wants to discuss morals.
And what his actual problems are there. And then I'm happy to, from there, move into these like economic quandaries that he thinks he has. So whenever you guys are ready, I'm happy to dive right into it.
Thank you so kindly, Andrew. And as a kind reminder to the chat, of course, this is our grand finale, which means we will go into open panel post-debate. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through our discussion, read and respond to your kind super chats, and then we're going to open up the open panel dumpster fire. Gentlemen, the floor is open to you.
Do you want to maybe restate the question where you wanted to start at, Andrew?
Yeah, why is it actually immoral to not grant birthright citizenship to the children of people who are in the country illegally? Why is that actually immoral?
I never said that. And now the problem. He wants to have this discussion about morals. Why do you make the claim that it is immoral to grant people to not grant people birthright citizenship? I didn't. And this is the start of the end. We won't go through the whole thing. I'll let this go for a few minutes, but this is the start of it. Andrew is incapable of having a debate, one, where he's not chain smoking, which I don't know how Christian that is, and two, he can't have a debate on the economics. In fact, just a few minutes ago, he said that he had arguments for all the economic standards, but then later on, he's going to grant me all the economics, which means what I came to debate, I won. That's the way that this debate was positioned to me. The way that the debate was positioned to me was Stephen, and then Sarah reran the prompt. I won. If you grant me the entire argument I make in my opening statement, I've won the debate that I came to debate. And so the rest of this is just going to be Andrew trying to convince me that it's very important to take definitive moral stances so that he can have a debate.
So then I'm sorry, so what's the immoral argument?
I didn't make any moral arguments.
You did. You said, in quotes, this is actually immoral. The moral argument which I will be making, and then you went into DACA and how we're breaking families up and how that's immoral. So
that didn't happen. In fact, I can say what I said is, this was the third point in my opening statement. I said that family separation and social disruption cannot be measured in terms of data. Adding division into cities, counties, states, and the country when there is no evidence of fiscal benefit is baffling to me. It would leave some more glass half empty liberals to believe that some or maybe all of it is truly about their cruelty. I didn't make a statement. I actually said it's baffling to me. You can't measure it. You can't measure social disruption. You can't measure the harm that is going to be inflicted on communities by data. So it's just baffling to me. That's all I said. It's baffling to me. I didn't make a moral claim. If he wants to refute what I said, just explain your justification for it. Because in my opening statement, I said that's baffling to me. I don't know why you would want to do all of this and make a moral claim about the social cohesion when the data is not. It's not possible to make a distinction based on the data. So I'm just baffled by it. I said that there are Americans who view it as a moral or humanitarian harm, and then I brought up due process violations, ending protections for legal immigrants, and our international reputation.
Okay, so let's make sure that we get this right. It's not actually immoral for us to end birthright citizenship.
See?
No. Okay, great. So then when Trump moves to end birthright citizenship, your only objection is that it's going to hurt you economically?
Yeah, I think it's just a dumb decision.
Because it's going to hurt you economically.
Probably not going to hurt me economically, but I think overall, yeah,
it's going to hurt somebody economically.
I think overall for the country, it has an impact on the country, and I don't see a reason why we need. This is the part that I guess if the Andrew Wilson dick riders are here, like, explain it to me. Why do I have to have a moral stance here? Why can't I just say, like, at work, if I were to take if I got my pay cut, would I be upset on moral principles? I'm so mad that they are paying me less because of my morality or their morality. No, you just wouldn't have as much money to pay your bills. It's not a moral argument. This idea that everything boils down to morals is so fucking silly. And I just got to tell you, Kelly Cam, and anybody else here, What a brain dead fucking take. What a brain dead fucking way to live. It is so thought stopping. It is so incurious to boil everything down to morals. What you have to be morally opposed to you taking a pay cut at work? You have to be morally opposed. If somebody comes in and steals money from your house, can you only be upset about the money that was stolen from you because morally you're upset about the principle? I just am against stealing. No, you're mad because you don't have the money anymore. And is that morals? No, you're mad because you can't pay for things anymore. That has nothing to do with morality. The desperation by Andrew to drag everything into a moral discussion, I hope nobody ever allows Andrew to drag another discussion into morality, because this man is going to be exposed over and over. He's been exposed. By the way, I don't think I did the best job debating Andrew that I've seen. Vosh debated Andrew, and Vosh actually, I believe he has a philosophy degree. He's very well versed in philosophy. So he was able to at least go down some roads I knew going in I wasn't going to go down with Andrew, because I don't do philosophical debates. I'm not super well versed in philosophy, but it's also important to remember that philosophy is just mostly hypothetical, right? So Vosh, if you want to go watch a good debate, Vosh said the same thing I said, though, that you are such a bad faith debater, Andrew. You just want to break this down into my morals versus your morals. And then all he's going to say is well, you can't take a moral stand if I can't take a moral stand. Therefore, everything's sixes. And so I'm no longer abhorrent because we both have morals that we're just following. That's all Andrew wants to do, is break it down so that you have to say oh, yeah, your morals aren't abhorrent. Your morals are abhorrent, according to me, according to my view of how they affect people. That's it. That's all he wants to argue about, which is so silly. Which it just makes it so that we can't have real discussions. I hope this Thursday, when I'm on an open panel, we can have real discussions. Do that. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So it's not immoral to end birthright citizenship. The only reason that you don't want to end it is because you think that that's going to create more economic problems for more American citizens. Is that right?
I honestly don't care if we end birthright citizenship. I just don't want it done by executive order. I think it should be done through Congress. So he missed that too. He said you made first of all, I didn't talk about birthright citizenship in my opening statement. So he said I made a moral claim about something that I didn't even bring up, but I didn't make a moral claim. And I think that we can end birthright citizenship. I do think it's flawed. I think birthright citizenship is flawed. I don't think that we're using it as it was intended, but we have to do it the right way.
Well, it's not being done through executive order.
Well, that's what he tried to do, right?
No, what he did was he used an executive order to get the ball rolling, so got in front of the Supreme Court, which is what he said.
That's so fucking disingenuous. That's what he tried to do, right? He tried to end birthright citizenship. No, he tried to get the ball rolling. How? By trying to end birthright citizenship by executive order, so it would be challenged and the Supreme Court would hear it. Do you see how this guy is so fucking dishonest? We're saying the same thing. He won't even admit it when we're saying the exact same thing.
The very beginning.
Fine, but I still think we should do it through Congress, which we're going to have to do, right? If we want to change that law.
And where is it being done? And where's it being
done? Through Congress.
Okay, well then I don't even understand that objection.
I don't have an objection to it. I said I don't care if we do it.
So then what's your issue here with the supposed humanitarian harms? Why did you bring up DACA, humanitarian harms,
well, why are you talking
moral
about
argument?
Why are you talking about birthright citizenship? That's not DACA.
I'm sorry. What is DACA?
DACA is what, a deferred action. It wasn't necessarily birthright citizenship, right?
What is it?
Is people who were brought here. By the way, just so when we're talking about DACA, what I said about DACA is that recent Republican proposals have called for ending protections for legal immigrants, including DACA and TPS recipients. That's all I said. I said that Republicans are calling to end protections for legal immigrants. That was part of my argument here, is that part of the harm is that legal immigrants to this country are also concerned about this presidency, and that's also creating irreparable harm. That's what I said about DACA and TPS, is that Trump isn't ending at illegal immigration. He's also going after legal immigration. But Andrew heard DACA and thought, I'm going to make a moral argument about this. I wasn't making a moral argument. As children.
Uh-huh. And it's a pathway to citizenship for them,
that's
right?
not the I don't view that as the same as birthright citizenship.
Why should we give that to them? Why is it immoral not to?
Because I think it makes sense.
Yeah, but why is it immoral not to?
I don't care about morals. I have no
See,
position
you don't
on
care
this.
about morals.
Every
Okay.
fucking time he asks me a question, I answer it, and then he goes, but morally, I don't care. I think that that's what everybody should say to Andrew all the time. If he asks you about morals, just say, I don't fucking care, Andrew. I don't care. This is a silly argument. Morals are entirely subjective. Who cares? Why are we arguing morals when we could argue like what works best? Again, the reason Andrew wants to argue morals is because Andrew wants a white Christian ethno-state. He is a racist. He is a Christian nationalist. He's a misogynist. And that's what he wants. And so in order for him to get what he wants, he has to show that everybody's just doing the same thing and it's all about morality. And he can justify his morals. You can't justify your morals, and therefore his morals should rule because they're more justifiable, which is crazy.
I have no position on morals. Great.
No.
Okay, so it's not immoral for us to end DACA, and it's not immoral for us to end birthright citizenship.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So
I just think it's dumb. My argument
you
is
just
that
think
it's dumb. By the way, I do want to point out real quick that you seem to maybe be having a different debate than me.
I don't think I am.
You said that
I'm going to tie it together.
Well, just real quick, you said that my claim is that we should allow immigrants to stay. What I said is Trump deportations do more harm than good. That's my claim.
Is that immoral?
I don't care about morality. It's irrelevant to me.
Okay, but
See?
I'm going to try
Every
to
time.
explain something.
And
to you.
here comes Sarah getting frustrated because Sarah, Andrew has like the same thing that older millennial does over on TikTok, where when he enters a panel, people just do whatever he says. That's what Sarah's doing right now. Sarah could have interjected at any point and said, hey, Andrew, the way that I set up this debate with RTP, the way that we went through all of this with the previous person he debated, is they took a side. They each took a side and they had a debate on which side was better. And that's the debate that I presented to RTP when I offered him this debate with you. She could have stepped in at any point and said, hey, look, there's a disconnect here. And the disconnect is probably the way that this was framed. And the guy who is here with his statistics to defend his position is under the impression that you're going to debate the opposite side of that. Not that this that he wants to defend an absolute claim. She could have done that. She didn't do that. I don't know if she was aware of that. I don't know if that thought occurred to her. And it didn't occur to me until later, honestly. It didn't occur to me until hours after the debate. I was like, wait a second. Like all of this could have been cleared up if we just laid out from the beginning what this debate was actually about, which we never did. Andrew just thinks, and his followers think, that there is one way to debate. And if you don't debate Andrew's way, then you're debating wrong. And if you're confused by the way that Andrew's debating you, if you're confused by the terminology that he's using, if you're confused by the parameters, then you're just dumb and he's just smart. But he's created an entire debate framework that only benefits him. And it's not like that's the only way you can debate. It's this idea that like you only can debate on morality is how Andrew has built his entire career. He's a massive fucking fraud, by the way. They all are. Everybody that has like these racist, xenophobic views that pretends that they don't and they just attack everybody else's views, it's because they know they can't defend theirs without losing popularity. Andrew wants to do the Charlie Kirk where you show up and you look like this sensible moderate, but when all is revealed, it turns out you're just a Christian nationalist. Turns out you're just kind of racist. Turns out you want an ethno-state. And anybody watching this all the way through the end, you all know the same thing I know. Andrew and all of his followers want an ethno-state. They want to get rid of immigrants because they think that it destroys their social cohesion. And what they really are saying when they say that is, we are racist, these people make us mad, and it makes the country divided because we are mad that people look different than us. That's what he's actually saying. This whole social cohesion thing, he doesn't have a good argument for that. When he says like he tries to say, oh, look, you could have a good or bad social cohesion. Some people are going to be happy if you don't deport a bunch of illegal immigrants, and some people will be happy. I agree with that. Who's going to be happy, though? The racists. Who's not going to be happy? The non-racists. So do I care who's happy there, or should I decide what's best for the country economically? Since I can't find consensus there, I'm left to say like what's best for the country economically. There we can actually draw a conclusion. There we can actually take the numbers and decide what the best decision is. Andrew doesn't want to do that because Andrew knows that he will lose that debate. So Andrew just has to break it down to its value or its morals versus morals, and we can't draw a conclusion. And therefore, you're dumb because you couldn't defend your position. That's all he was trying to do this entire debate.
So that you understand it's very important that you understand this.
Okay.
If you make this claim that the reason we should do X is because if we don't, it's stupid and bad. It's bad to do X. It's not good. Are you saying that it would be bad, or you're just neutral on the fact that we could cost ourselves 3% of the GDP?
Yeah, I think I laid that out. Economically, it's a bad idea.
Okay, so then it's immoral.
No, I don't know. It's not based on morals.
Then what does fucking bad mean?
Math. This is where we get into it. It's not about morals. It's about bad math. What does bad mean? Math. And now he's gonna. I don't like the
bad means math.
I don't like the math on it. I don't like the math on it.
Can we back it up? Because harm can dive into
well, what does bad mean here?
Concept.
It means the math is negative. That would be
okay.
bad.
And why is that bad though? What makes that bad?
Because I don't like losing money.
So I'm sorry. When you say bad,
now he's gonna do this thing because he's trying to drag me into morals. So now he's gonna do this thing that Andrew always does, where he takes he knows what bad means. He knows exactly what I'm saying. But now he's going to give me two definitions of the word bad, as if there's only two ways to use the word bad. And then he's going to try and pin me down on one of those two answers so that then he can get back to his morality argument. And this is where people that debate Andrew need to be aware of his tactics. There are a million ways you could use the word bad. I had a friend named Andrew growing up that used to always be like, dude, you see that truck out there? That truck was bad, dude. That's badass. Dude, that's so bad. Listen to that dirt bike. It's badass, bro. That thing is bad. You could use bad a lot of different ways, right? Andrew's now going to give me two options for the definition of bad. Neither one of them, I think, are like all inclusive. And I think there's about 100 other ways we could figure out how to use bad. But here's how he's going to do. And what he's going to do is he's going to give you a stupid answer, and he's going to give you one that's a moral answer. And he's going to try and force you to pick the one that is a moral answer so that he can again say, this is about morals. These are your morals. This is Andrew's debate tactic. And the only reason I'm doing this, and we're gonna post this, is because I hope people learn that Andrew is not a good faith debater, and he's not a good debater. He's just good inside of this framework that he's created. And for some reason, these right-wing debate spaces have decided, yeah, sure, we're just going to go with Andrew's structure. We're going to play by Andrew's rules that are completely slanted for him, especially if he's always taking the negative. He doesn't take the affirmative position. He takes the negative position. It's easy. It's easy to dog walk people here because it's a rigged game, and I'm not going to play a game. I want to have real, substantive debates.
Grant that there could be two forms of bad.
Sure.
I'm having a bad day.
Sorry.
Right? That sucks, right? Because I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
That's a Commons word, a use of the word bad, right? But if I say, like, murder is bad, I'm saying that that's an immoral thing, right? You would agree with me on that?
Sure, whatever you're... Okay, but what if I said that food was bad? That could mean the food was rotten, right? What if I said that truck was bad, but I meant it cool? What if I said it was what if somebody asked me how I golfed and I said it was bad? I had a bad day on the golf course. What does that mean? Well, it could mean that somebody kicked me in the dick. It could mean that I got bit by a dog. It could mean that I didn't enjoy myself. It could mean that I shot a bad score. There's so many different ways you could use bad, but Andrew's going to drag you back in and try and force you to take a moral stance. And this became painfully obvious to me after 3 or 4 debates I watched from Andrew. And everybody who's good at debating just refuses to engage. And every time somebody refuses to engage with Andrew, the debate goes about like this. And those people never debate him again. 1, because he doesn't challenge them. And 2, because they're like, this is a fucking nightmare. Good point, G.I. I'm a baddie means I'm hot. Johnny said, get Sarah to set up a debate between Andrew and Dan McClellan. Dan would wipe the floor with him on all his biblical stances. I don't know if he's debated Dan McClellan or not. Zero said our societies ran on ethics. Andrew's morals are irrelevant to our laws. Facts. Kristen said, kind super chats. There were 0 of those. They were not nice to me, the super chats. Yeah, whatever.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Right.
So when you say that contracting necessarily 3% of the GDP is bad, do you mean as in I'm having a bad day? Or as in this is going to be immoral because the outcomes for people is not going to work out very well?
Neither. You just said it. You left out one part. Like if I make less money, that's bad. But that's not really moral. That's just I'm making
Like
less
bad
money.
is in a bad day?
So it's bad for my finance. See the problem here? There's no answer there. If I'm talking about like bad because I'm losing money, does that mean I'm having a bad day? No, it means I have less money to pay my bills. Is that moral? No, it's also not a moral argument. What I'm talking about doesn't fit either definition, but he wants to force me into one of those two. And obviously it's not going to be, it's a bad day. So he's forcing me in this other direction. And I'm like, I'm not going to go there. Just a reminder, guys, we are crowdfunded. I'll read these super chats as they come in. And if you're over on TikTok, I know that Andrew's doing some things on screen that TikTok doesn't like. So make sure that you're sharing this live out with your friends and gifting our HR rep to make sure that this TikTok doesn't get taken down. That's it. Sure.
Okay, so then all you mean by bad here is the same as you
said
would mean
bad.
with...
You said bad. I said okay.
No, I asked you.
I said I think the math is bad because
yeah. So then I didn't say
result.
bad. You said bad, right?
I was responding to you saying it, but that's fine. Semantics.
Yeah. So when you say, well, hang on, semantics are super important for a debate, and that's why I'm trying to get these things clarified.
No,
I think so.
I would like to talk about the. Well, I think what you're trying to do is drag this into a moral argument because I don't think you have numbers to tell me I'm wrong about that. Anybody here, tell me I'm wrong that Andrew's trying to drag this into a moral debate. He's brought up morals about 50 times. Tell me I'm wrong. Callie Cam, you're here, dude. Let's see how honest you are. Are you going to tell me Andrew's not trying to drag me into a moral debate right now? Any of you? It's obvious what he's doing, and now he's lying about it. We just watched him try and drag me into a moral debate for 10 minutes. He knows he's doing it. He's talking. He literally said everything is morality. He's trying to drag me into a moral argument, and he's lying about, no, I'm not. No, don't expose what I'm doing. Back up anything that you're saying.
I'm just starting
That's why my argument specifically didn't talk about morals, Andrew. I talked about actual data. I'm looking at the economic impact of these people, and you want to talk to me about morals. I'm not interested in that conversation.
Well, can I try to explain to you and give you an expression of why this is so silly to me?
Callie Cam, we were in a debate. He wanted me into his debate. He wanted me into the debate he wanted to have. He refused to have the debate that Sarah set up. Go ask Sarah if we set this up as a moral debate. Go ask Sarah if we set this up as a way like I was going to absolutely defend this prompt as if I made it. And not that we were working on the same understanding of our previous debate with Steven, where he took the opposite side of that. He wants to drag me into his debate. Because that's the only debate Andrew knows how to have. Andrew is the most one-dimensional debater I've ever seen in my life. He is incredibly bad faith. He takes every debate and tries to turn it into what he wants it to be so that he looks good. Because the reality about Andrew is he's very repetitive. He's not that bright. He's not that good of a debater. He conceded all of my economic points. So at the end of this debate, you're left with two conclusions. Either Jay was right economically, and economically it makes absolutely no fucking sense to deport all these people, or Andrew was right, and Jay's morals are inconsistent, therefore we should do mass deportations. That's how this ended. We had two separate debates. He granted me all of my points. He didn't refute a single point that I made. And at the end of it, we're left with Andrew's conclusion that my ethical framework is not sound, and therefore he won. That's the conclusion you're left with at the end. And if you conclude that my moral, ethical framework is not as sound as Andrew's, I would grant that to you. Great. What does it mean? What does it mean to you? Nothing. Just that you're a white nationalist and you think that your white nationalist leader here has worked out really good arguments for his ethical framework. That's it. And I lay out data. And I lay out a sound argument based on numbers. I like mine better. If you only care about morals, Andrew's your guy. If you care about data, if you care about doing what's right for the majority of people, if you care about what's economic sense, I win. He grants it to me. Yes, I grant all of this to you. But why do you care morally? I don't.
If the economic data that you want backed up, even if I were to grant that you're completely correct, but you say it's not a moral...
Which I was. 2 debates in a row, Stephen and Andrew both had to concede my data was correct.
Moral proposition. Why the fuck should I even care?
You don't have to care.
Why should anybody care?
You don't have to care. I'm not
No,
asking.
so
I'm
nobody-
not. We showed up for a debate. I gave the prompt: Trump deportations do more harm than good. I didn't sign up to debate whether or
Is
not
harm
you should
okay? Is harm bad?
care. In this case, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay, so harm is immoral.
I don't care about morals, dude. I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want to do here.
Because
What
I'm
are we
just
doing?
trying to figure out what you mean by bad.
No, what you're trying to do is drag me into a moral argument because you
No,
have a
I'm just trying to figure
your
out what you
position
mean
is-
by bad.
Your position is based on your morals. My position is based on math, which is why I don't have like this universal look. Is harm bad? I think they're synonyms. They could be used as synonyms sometimes. Do you, like at the time I'm frustrated as fuck. Watching back, it's dumber than I thought. I honestly, Jen asked me yesterday how I felt the debate went. At the time, I thought it went poorly. I still think it went poorly, but not for the same reasons. I think anybody watching this who's not a debate bro is like, bro, what the fuck is this guy doing? Is harm bad? Yes, sometimes they're synonyms. They mean kind of the same thing. Nobody's looking at Andrew right now going, oh, this makes a lot of sense, unless you are a Crucible fan, unless you're an Andrew Wilson fan, and you've watched him do this a million times. Like, oh, here it comes, dude. He's about to trap him. You all know that. You all know he's trying to trap me here. What does that say when your trap is so obvious that you can't trap somebody in it? A lot of the things that you accuse me of, you're like, here's what people on the left do. You thought I was going to be against birthright citizenship. You think I'm against deportations. You think that I am pro-illegal immigration. I'm not pro any of those things. It seems like you didn't listen to a word I said in my opening statement and just decided from the get-go that you were going to have a moral discussion here.
No, I went down east.
Which is, the proof of that is that he misstated all of my positions in his opening statement. He took all of my positions and lied about what I said about them. That's the evidence. He didn't hear a fucking word I said. He just gave a generic response to my ideas. He literally said, you said this, and a lot of people on the left, this would mean this. He strawmanned my entire position and then granted it to me, and then's like, I'm not having a moral debate. But what does bad mean? What does harm mean? Is harm good? Is harm bad?
Each point that you made and gave a refutation in my own intro.
No, you missed most of them.
When you're discussing this, though, listen, it's not a gotcha. I'm not even looking for the moral discussion.
Okay.
All I'm looking for right now is to clear up semantics so that we understand we're not speaking past each other. If you're just coming in to say, oh, the numbers look good on our side, great, who cares? That's not what
my position won no swing states. Your position won no swing states. Andrew's position is not Trump's position. You guys are a fringe alt-right bunch of bitches. That's your position. Andrew's position didn't win swing states either. Nobody talks like Andrew that works for the Trump campaign. None of them. Andrew had nothing to do with the swing states. Like, he's just a incel god to you guys.
the argument is
I
about.
care.
The argument's about whether it does more harm than good. So when we say things like a harm principle or a good principle, right? If you're neutral on the fact that if there's economic output, which is problematic, I win the debate by default because you haven't demonstrated there's any harm, because harm's not bad. Or if you say good.
Harm's. Did I say harm's not bad? Now we're strawmanning again. Is harm bad? I said sometimes. Right? Some harm. I guess you could find way. Like, harm could be good. Like, for example, if you work out and your muscles hurt, that could be good. But if my muscles hurt because somebody punched it in the leg, am I going to get any benefit from that? No. But see how you just strawman the position again? This entire art, and to strawman positions, to claim you're not doing making a moral argument, to then make a moral argument is the type of dumbassery that only Andrew's crowd could fall for. Benny said he thinks because he appeals to a Christian God that morals are objective. A flaw because morals are subjective, even to God. It's always moral to whom? Exactly. Purple Kitty said strong concern about that channel. Toxic masculinity, misogyny, ableism, violent. Chat is violent, unregulated. The soft porn thoughts. I don't know. Sarah uses like soft corn to silence the panel when they get crazy. She just will play a video of some soft corn. It is interesting. Zero said our society's around on ethics. Oh, I read that one.
When you say good, I assume that you mean that this is something which is positive, the opposite of harm, and so that's a more moral proposition. So either of those things, more harm, when you say harm and good.
Wait, so it's not a moral debate, but we're talking about morals, is what he's saying. Makes no sense.
You mean moral, immoral. If you mean something else by harm or good, then I want to get those semantics cleared up so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I cleared that. This is like the 5th time I've cleared it up. Right? Economically, it's bad for our country. I think it does harm to our economy.
Bad meaning what?
Bad meaning the numbers are negative.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell me anything. So anytime.
What else do you want it to tell you? What the fuck else do you want it to tell you, Andrew? I think that the economics are bad. Well, that doesn't tell me anything if you don't tell me what bad means. Bad in this case is negative math, which I explained earlier. If it is a negative impact to our economy, if it's a negative impact to our pocketbooks, if it's a negative impact to Social Security, to Medicaid, to farmers, to I named about 15 different ways that this impacts us economically that are net negatives, but I don't know what bad means. You guys are telling me, honestly, you guys are telling me that you think this is a good debate by Andrew. You think that just like being this fucking dumb and saying like, what does bad mean? We're 39 minutes in. 39 minutes in, I laid out economically what it meant, but I can't understand that the economic negatives if you don't tell me what bad means. What does bad mean? He exhausts the listener. That's 100% what he does. And it's also, I'll finish up. I'm not going to do this whole thing, but it's also why at the end, when there's a panel and it's 8v1, none of them could explain this either. None of them could explain what Andrew was talking about. None of them could refute a point. Andrew's debate tactics he's a better version of HVAC. His whole goal is to just never get cornered in anything. Have no substance. Try and corner the other person and never get cornered yourself. And that's why it's obnoxious to watch. It's also why I want to debate this.
Is anytime numbers are negative, is that bad?
No, negative numbers can be good,
okay,
like in golf.
Sure. So then negative numbers don't just mean bad.
But
so
in this
when you
case,
say bad,
in this case, it's
what makes that bad though?
Somebody tell me what word I could use there. If we're talking about negative numbers, what word could I use that can only be used one way? You know what I mean? Like what word could I have used besides bad there? I've used negative, that didn't work. Why is negative bad? Detrimental? What does detrimental mean? Is detrimental the same to you and to I? What about the other side? Could it be beneficial to some people while it's detrimental to someone else? Non-beneficial. Yeah. Well, then what if it's beneficial to somebody else? What if it's non-beneficial to you but beneficial to somebody else? You see what I mean? Like, it didn't matter what word I used. He was going to deploy the same tactics, and he was going to force me to make a moral claim. That's all he wants me to do, is make a moral fucking claim, because then we can get into the argument of his ethical framework, and then he gets to say, your ethics suck. You can't prove that my ethics are bad, so they're equivalent, meaning ethics are irrelevant, meaning that my point is valid. That's all he wants to do. He has no desire to talk about illegal immigration at all, because there's less money circulating through our economy.
Yeah, but that's just giving me one step further in the descriptor, not telling me what bad actually means.
I'm not interested in a semantic debate. How do you define bad without using descriptors? I don't. What does bad mean? I explain it. You're just using words to explain what bad means. Yeah. What do you want me to draw you a fucking picture? How else am I going to describe what bad means without using descriptors? See how crazy this is? This was the craziest, most bad faith debate I've ever been in my entire life. It was crazy. I don't honestly know what I could have said outside of bad to describe bad. The only option that he had was me saying, I just believe my morals say that it's bad. And he'd be like, oh, now we're having a moral argument. And then he would just start beating off immediately. Like, finally, we're having the moral argument. There's nothing you could say. What bad means, Andrew. I'm here to debate immigration.
It's not a semantic debate. It's clarifying what you mean by the thing.
You're talking about the harm principle. You're setting parameters on this debate.
What's the debate called?
So that we can.
What's the debate topic?
Not what is the harm principle. There's lots of definitions to harm.
What is the debate topic? Just tell me what the debate topic is.
Deportations do more harm than good.
Is it appropriate for me to ask you what harm and good mean when the debate prompt is specifically alluding to both of those things?
Yeah, I think that it's not the harm principle, though. You can use the word harm
Okay.
in many different ways. You can
And
use
those
it
are
to
the ways
describe
I'm
a
trying to
physical
get you
injury.
to.
You could,
and
you
those
could,
are,
and I'm
yes.
saying that this is a way that it is deliberately inflicted on our economy. Okay, just so you know, when I'm saying deliberately inflicted here, let me show you where that came from. This is the definition of harm. So he's telling me I'm not giving him a definition of harm. Here is the definition of harm I'm using: physical injury, especially that which is deliberately inflicted. So I'm saying that this is a financial injury that is deliberately inflicted. That is the definition of harm that I'm using, and I've given it to him 5 times now. And he just keeps telling me that this word does not mean harm. By the way, these things, these synonyms down here: injury, hurt, pain, suffering, distress, anguish, trauma, injure, hurt, wound, maltreat, mistreat, misuse. You could have used any of these. I could have used any of these definitions. There are so many definitions of harm. He wasn't willing to accept. If I'm making the affirmative claim, by the way, I get to set what harm means. If it's my claim and I'm using harm as my claim, then I get to determine what harm means, not him. So if you ask me my definition of harm, and I give you my definition of harm and tell you I'm using harm in this way, then that's what we're debating. You don't get to keep telling me that my definition, which I used directly from the dictionary, is not sufficient unless you want to drag me into a moral argument, which is all he wants to do. Deliberately inflicted.
Okay,
That is a
but-
definition of harm.
Yeah. So, do you realize like immediately the problem that you have here?
No.
So, well, I'll explain it to you.
Thank you.
So, when you say this has nothing to do with some principle or anything like that, when you say more harm than good, you're saying that there's a negative there, and the negative outcome, I would guess, is the harm, right?
Yeah, well, in this case, I think that we are deliberately inflicting damage to our economy, and the outcome of that is a less stable economy. Is that not the perfect definition? Am I not using the word harm correctly there? I just used deliberately inflicted. I took my definition, I inserted it into a sentence, I explained it using the descriptors from the word harm, and he's like, you don't even understand the problem here. I'm defining it for him for the 5th time, 6th, and he's still telling me I'm not defining it.
And that's bad.
Yeah, sure.
So that would be immoral.
Right, it's immoral. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's immoral.
Sure.
So when you say harm in this case, you're saying
Okay, if it wasn't about dragging me into a moral conversation, how come now he's willing to move on once I agree that it's immoral? Explain it to me. Where'd Callie Cam go? It takes literally to this point where I go, fine, it's immoral. And now he's ready to move on. He didn't have a problem with my definition. He needed me to say this is immoral so that he could move on. He can't move on until I agree to a discussion about morals, because his debate strategy doesn't work unless you agreed that you're making this debate about morals.
this thing is immoral.
I'm not
right?
saying any of that. You are. If we whatever we have to do to move on from this shit, that would be great.
I just need you to not equivocate.
I know it's frustrating because you want to have a moral debate. I would like you to outline anything I said, and we can discuss whether it's good or bad.
Okay, I'll explain this to you. So that you
All right,
understand.
Cam, did I define the word now that you're here? Did I define what harm was 5 times? Did I pick a definition of harm? Why does my definition of harm not matter here? Why does his matter at all? If I'm making the affirmative claim, following his debate tactics, and finding agreeing with his setup of how this debate should go, how I have to defend this position, I've now defined what harm means. I've used a real definition of harm. I've used it in a sentence, and now he's going to morals.
Pull up the equivocation fallacy for me.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, do you need me
Pull
to
up
pull
the
it up for you?
definition of harm.
Yeah, I'll pull up the definition
Okay.
of harm. There's going to be a multitude of definitions.
Great.
but I'll give
So why are you picking harm principle instead of one of the definitions I'm
because
using of harm?
that's-
It's my
that's what-
claim. It's me
Yeah.
telling you what my. So by the way, the equivocation fallacy is basically just saying that there are different ways to use the word, and in this case, I think what he's trying to say is that I am using the word incorrectly for this argument, and that it's leading me to a invalid conclusion. But I'm not. I'm giving him exactly how I'm defining the word. I'm using it in a sentence, and I'm applying it to how I'm claiming harm. It's crazy how dishonest and bad at this he is. It's crazy. I felt like I was dealing with like a carnival barker, like just trying to dupe me the whole time. I've played his fucking game this entire time, and I'm 5 miles ahead of him, and he's still just like trying to pull me into a moral discussion.
Yeah, I know what your claim is, but your claim has to have meaning to me. So the thing is I'm going to pull up. I'll pull up your.
That's crazy too. My claim has to have meaning to him now. Where the fuck are we pulling that from? I just gave you it. It doesn't have to mean anything to you. You can't understand that I'm saying we are deliberately inflicting pain on our economy. That doesn't mean anything to you. I don't know what to tell you then. If that doesn't mean anything to you, what the fuck are we having this conversation for then? I'm talking about economic harm. Oh, it doesn't mean anything to me. Okay.
Definition.
Steven said, keep giving it to them, Jay. Howard said, Trump supporters can't be honest. They act like he didn't say things we heard or done things that, or do things he's done. Hey, Howdy said, for the sad gift goal, don't worry, we all love you. Thank you. FOD said, bad means destructive to the fabric and function of the USA. Only smooth-brained people would see that as moral. Mel said, we do love you guys. Jen, for the gift goal. Thank you, guys. Oh, let me check here, too. I'm checking PayPal. Swish said, for Catholic cheering, I read that one. A Catholic cheering Christian nationalism is weird. Laura said, for surviving the debate. Thank you, Laura. All right, we'll continue.
Or all definitions of harm. You can pick one. I'm fine
Sure.
with that.
I just did. I told you it was deliberately inflicted destruction of our economy. That's the 7th time I've defined it now.
So that you understand the equivocation fallacy, I'll read it for you verbatim. These aren't even gotchas. It's not even trickery. I'm just trying to get the semantics out of the way so we can get to the debate. Equivocation.
Yes, Callie Cam, when you say you can't say something is good or bad because I feel so, one, I'm not saying it's good or bad because I feel so. I'm backing up with data. But two, morality is all subjective. It's all you feeling something. It's all something that starts in your brain and comes out of your mouth. All of it is. It's all subjective. If you say, I believe this is bad because of Andrew's, by the way, Andrew's logic, if we flipped this, Andrew's logic is that it is from divine origins. That his entire ethical framework is given from God, whoever that is. You can say that. Just because you ascribe a name to God doesn't mean that you're coming by your conclusions any differently than me. They're still in your head. The only difference is you're reading it first. Somebody's probably told you this is your belief first, and then you agree with it. Mine are actually coming from thoughtfulness. I'm actually looking at what's in front of me, and I'm deciding what I think is best. We all do that. It's just that you have this ethical framework that you've created where you get to say, like, oh, I have an ethical framework, and you don't, so I'm better.
It's the use of ambiguous language to conceal the truth or avoid committing to a specific stance. That's what equivocation is. It involves using words or phrases with multiple meanings in a way that can mislead the listener or the reader. So
I just told you what the meaning was. I just told you 3 times what my meaning was.
Can you just chill out?
I can, but this is silly.
It's not silly. It's just that you're not used to actually having to commit to your stance. So equivocation is the use of ambiguous language to conceal the truth or avoid committing.
So the ambiguous language in this case, in his case, would be bad, and then or harm. He's saying that that's ambiguous. So if you want to make harm unambiguous, you define it. Which I fucking did 5 times. That's how something goes from ambiguous to unambiguous. You add a definition. So no longer am I using a word that could be applied many different ways. Not only have I chosen the word, I've now defined the word, and the way that I'm using the word, it is no longer ambiguous at all. And I don't know where the fuck we lost him. I don't know. I have no clue where we lost this guy at this point. I think he probably had a definition, and I don't remember. He might get to it. I think he has a definition he wants me to agree to so that we can move on. He just doesn't want me to use my definition. And him saying, like, you've never had to commit to a position. I just fucking did. I just fucking committed to an exact definition, and I've done it 5 times. And he's still going back. Like, he just wants me to use a different definition here.
specific stance. I'm saying that you're guilty right now of using an equivocation fallacy in your arguments because you won't make such a firm stance on what harm means.
I disagree.
Okay, then what does harm mean?
Deliberately inflicted destruction to our economy. How many more times do I have to define that? How many more times before? And he's like, "Fuck! Let me Google another fallacy here." Like, what are we doing here?
Okay, that's all harm means.
In this case, that's what it means. Now he wants me to equivocate. Oh, that's the only definition? You just accused me of using the equivocation fallacy, which means that I'm using a broad term and I'm not being specific with the term. Then I give you a specific term and then you accuse me of equivocating, and now you're asking me to equivocate. Oh, is that the only way that it is used? Obviously not. Obviously not. I'm giving you the way. Now he's inviting me to equivocate. It was so much worse than I thought. In the moment, I was not quite tracking this. Now that I'm watching it again, it's like, oh my God, he was so frustrated and so lost here that he's just taking both sides. You're being too broad. Oh, now that you're being specific, couldn't you be being more broad? I don't get it. We just reversed the conversation now. Now we're doing this shit again. That might be where we end it. We'll see. God damn YouTube. Why does this soy boy constantly scream like a child? Because I'm very emotional. And kiss my ass. How about that? That's why I yell like a child. By the way, Andrew did yell like a child in this debate quite a few times too. Are you guys done with the Andrew debate yet, or do we want to keep going if this loads? Where are we at on this? Jen, do you want to do some announcements while this is loading, if it loads? YouTube's getting annoyed by Wilson. It's honestly so much worse than I thought it was. I thought I understand why the people who love Andrew Wilson thought this went well for him. But there's nobody that watched this that thinks that this was like a good debate, that it was a substantive debate. There's nobody that watched this that's like, oh yeah, that's that isn't like an incel. That they didn't even understand what he was saying. In fact, I think that it benefited me that I watched Andrew debate a bunch of other times because I knew what he was going to do. And so I think I was like at least one step ahead on some of these things just because I'm like, oh, I've seen this before. I've watched you do this before. Just usually it's somebody a little bit more unassuming. How did I do this before? I don't remember how I got this to work before. Jen, you here? Oh shit, I haven't been reading Jen's messages. Let me catch up on these messages. Izzy, thanks for joining the Dollar Train. Jumar said I only beat off because of my morals. Ashley said, my dad donating bone marrow to his brother hurt my dad, but was morally good. But then the bone marrow didn't take and killed his brother. Was that good or bad or moral or immoral? Fuck Andrew. Pink said, if you took a shot for every time Andrew said bad, you would be dead by now, which would be bad, but define bad. Cam said, just an FYI, we in California cringe when people use Cali, fraud Californian, fraud Cam. He's basically my Wario, probably a Niners fan. Chelsea said, bitch tally payout. Thanks, Chelsea. I got a lot of bitches in at the end of this. Marlene said, for putting up with the insufferable douche canoe, Andrew is a pompous ass. Thank you. I don't know what to do about this. I post the definition of bad. Where did you post the definition of bad? Kelly Cam, that's like your millionth joke about like my closet. I'm not in a closet. There's closet doors behind me. I think this is weird, dude. I think the problem with you, Kelly Cam, is that like you're not actually very funny. You've gone with the same, like that's about the 8th time that I've seen that you've made a joke about a closet. I'm not a super wealthy person. I'm not even like a wealthy person, but I do own a house, and I do live in the house that I own, and it's a decent house. It's a weird thing that you do. You're pretty bad at this. I think you know what's happening though on the screen, that Andrew's getting absolutely decimated. Okay, here, definition of bad: failing to reach an acceptable standard, poor, unfavorable, morally objectionable, evil, inadequate, or unsuited to a purpose. Okay, thank you. I don't have you muted, Jen. I think it's my computer that is. I haven't touched anything. There's obviously something going on with my computer today. Let me go in here. Like you can look at it, Jen. It's not not muted. It'd be muted right there. I don't know what to do here. May have changed my sound settings. This is obnoxious. I don't know, Jen. I don't know what to tell you. All of this is bad. I'd like you guys to tell me to refresh the page. Watch. I'm going to refresh the page right now. Watch. Refresh. Refresh. I think it's a YouTube problem today. Because I can play other videos. Like I can play Twitter videos. Now watch if we close it. If I close all of maybe I can close all of Chrome. Maybe I can pull it up in Explorer, I guess. Let's go here. Let's close that. All right, we're going to try. It's still doing the same thing. Let's try it in Explorer. Give me 1 second. Let me get to my history. It's got to be YouTube. Now I'm in a different browser now. It's still doing it. All right, we may have to come back to the Andrew stuff later. Let me see if these other videos. We may have to, if nothing will load, we may just have to shut it down for the day. Let me try this. All right. Well, that's where we're at with Andrew. If any of these are going to work. There's no audio. Holy shit. We may have to just shut it down. Oh, I might have to do a Windows update here too. All right, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this Windows update. I'm going to shut down the stream, and then I'm going to come back. Nothing's working. None of my clips are working. I'm not really sure what